Was good with it. Was good with it, y'all. Your boy Geechee Gilla Jack from the go in today about skin colors, continuation of what we were talking about in the skin map on pseudo killers. I had some sources that I wanted to get off that I didn't get to share on Unk show. So I'm gonna share it on this show. But welcome to Al Jaheed's podcast, man. We're gonna get it in. What's good with it, y'all? Just give me a second so I can get my sources together. And Reggie had me messed up trying to flip my words. You know what I'm saying? If I say Neanderthal, so here we go. Here I go. But yeah, what's up with it? What's up with it, Juju? We in the building. I just want to get off some sources that I didn't get to share earlier on the show. I was going to save it. I'll probably save it for the favor for this show. And I'll share a video as well. And Reggie tried to twist my words up too about the Neanderthal thing. If I say the ancestors came out of Africa, they came out of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Like I could say Denisova came out of Africa. The ancestors came out of Africa. They just pop up in Asia out of nowhere. Of course, you know what I'm saying, they evolve and adapt to their environments and all that. Hold on real quick. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Hold on, send some links out too. Yeah, I filmed the ball a little bit because I should have explained a lot more. But he tried to use it as his advantage over laugh and all. We wasn't really that funny like that. But he know what I meant though. He tried to make it be all technical and shit. I was just making it simple. Yeah, my bad. I had to step off real quick. Here I come. I wanted to share this. Hold on, not this sort. This one right here. The varying skin colors of Africa, light, dark, and all in between. A team of geneticists led by Sarah Tishkoff, uh, a Penn integrants knowledge professor, has shown that there is a huge amount of variation of skin color within Africa, ranging from skin as light as Asians to the darkest skin on the global level. Skin color is one of human kind's most striking and stunning variable traits. With a new study of diverse African groups, a team of geneticists led by Sarah Tishkoff, a Penn a Penn Integrants knowledge professor, and David and Ling Selfin University professor in genetics and biology. As broaden and deepen an understanding of genes that skin color human, that color humans that color human skin. The findings published in the journal Science shed light on human evolution and inform knowledge about the genetic risk factors for conductions such as skin cancer. When people think of skin color in Africa, most would think of dark skin. You know what I'm saying? That's just like everybody else in the community thing. They assume that. A lot of people assume that. Tishkoff says, but we show that within Africa, there is a huge amount of variation ranging from skin as light as some Asians to the darkest skin on global level and everything in between. While scientists have probed the genetic basis of skin color before most of the studies were done on Europeans, to gain a fuller picture of the globe's genetic diversity, Tishkoff, along with postdoctoral researcher Nicholas Crawford, the study's lead author and a large international team of collaborators examined more than 4,000 points in the genomes of nearly 1,600 study volunteers from the ethnically and genetically diverse populations in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Botswana. You said drop the sources in the chat. Hold on real quick. I'll do that later when I'm done. Okay. And it say, they said the researchers found four key areas of the genome where variations closely correlated with skin color differences. The areas encompass 8 genetic variations, which in total explain 29% of the variation in skin color, and the group studied a surprisingly large amount for such a complex trait that almost certainly involves the complementary action of many genes. One gene that the group studied, MFSD12, had been found to be differentially expressed in light and dark skin of people with vitiligo, a condition where the skin loses pigment in some areas, but was otherwise little understood. The team found variations in MFSD12 that were associated with both very dark and relatively light skin. Mutations in and around these genes that were associated with the dark pigmentation were present at high frequencies in populations of Nilo-Saharan ancestry, who tend to have very dark skin, as well as across sub-Saharan populations, except the San of Southern Africa, who tend to have lighter skin. Tishkoff and colleagues also identified these variations as well as others associated with dark skin pigmentation. In South Asian, Indian, and Australo-Melanesian populations, who tend to have the darkest skin coloration outside of Africa, pointing to a possibility of an early human migration even that carried these genetic variations out of Africa along the Southern Asian coast. Not content to simply conduct genomic analysis, the team performed functional ACEs, demonstrating the function of MFSD12, deleting the gene in the zebrafish in mice changed the coloring of both species. These new insight in skin cell biology contribute to an understanding of pigmentation disorders as well as skin cancer. A variant in another gene, SLC24A5, which is associated with lighter skin pigmentation, seem to have been introduced from the Middle East into East Africa. In other genes linked with skin color, the researchers discovered that they play roles in albinism and melanoma risk. Some of the genetic variation researchers identified coding for both light and dark skin pigmentation were quite ancient, between 300,000 to 1 million years ago, meaning that skin color variation seems to have been present since before the entrance of Homo sapiens. That meaning, like, they're saying, like, just like I said, archaic humans, even Homo erectus, and Neanderthals, depending on where they at, their skin, was different colors. Like the Neanderthals that was in the Middle East, they were a little darker than the ones that they found in Germany. This dude was based off the UV radiation. Even as well with Homo erectus. Tishkoff noted that the work underscores the diversity of African populations and the lack of support for biological notions of race. Many of the genes and new genetic variations we identified to be associated with skin color may never have been found outside of Africa because they are not in highly viable. They're not highly viable, Tishkoff says. There is also much diversity in Africa that's not often appreciated. There is no such thing as an African race. We show that skin color is extremely variable on the African continent and that it is still evolving. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. I'm gonna share some videos as well. Yeah, like, Africa is not just one skin tone. That's why that race map was pseudo anyway. That Reggie pulled, or that old 17th, 18th century map. They just had limited colors on it. Like it varies. You got all type of UV radiation. Then also you got certain, not only that, you got certain you got certain things that like it don't necessarily have to be like in a hot region for the UVRs to make you dark. It could be other factors how those rays hit that has to do with your melanin and you absorbing vitamin D to protect your folate acid, which holds your DNA, and that can cause to protect you from cancer, getting cancer. Let me share a video real quick. and it shows some Nina Jablonski is to show people that, you know, skin color is independent from other phenotypical features. The skin don't have to, you know, you don't necessarily have to be a person from, Central Africa to have super dark skin. And that doesn't even make a person African or not. Go to stop. You say no sound on there? Oh, you say no sound? You can't hear nothing? Hold on. I had to do it from my computer. There we go. I had to get on from my computer. Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. I had to switch from my computer to my phone. I'm gonna show that video again. Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. I had to switch.
Evolutionary forces of photoprotection, protection against intense UV near the equator, and photosynthesis of vitamin D closer to the poles. These two climes meeting together in the mid-latitudes. What people do we find here in the mid-latitudes, in the circum-Mediterranean, and in the far tip of South Africa, and in much of the neotropics? We find people who have moderately pigmented and highly tannable skin. People who can gain a lot of pigmentation and lose a lot of pigmentation according to the intensity of UV in the sunlight. And the genetics of skin pigmentation continue to unfold and amaze. Tanning as an ability has evolved from multiple genetic substrates multiple times. Similar skin colors, both depigmented, darkly pigmented, and highly tannable skin colors have evolved multiple times independently under the same UV conditions. Very, very, very beautiful evolutionary biology. And importantly is that we see similar skin tones evolving independently of other traits. So when we think about, oh yeah, well, how is that skin tone related to hair color and hair texture and eye color? Well, basically, from a genetic perspective, almost completely unrelated. So we have skin pigmentation genes evolving entirely or mostly entirely independently of genes that determine other aspects of our physical appearance. So think about this in terms of the classic definition of races. This is something I work on all the time. How do people think about race? They think about these discrete packages of biological and even behavioral traits. These packages don't exist in life. These packages, these discrete boundaried packages of genes don't exist. And I'm happy to say that our work on the evolution of skin pigmentation has helped to push this whole area of inquiry about the origins of human diversity and how we talk about it forward. This is a discussion that we all have to have. How we got to look how we are is a fantastically interesting story. And humans now look at in beautiful plenitude in every shade of the sepia rainbow all over the world as they've dispersed, undergone depigmentation, repigmentation, tanning, untanning, just an amazing array. You have skin. You can teach.
She just killed Reggie right there.
Human evolution and natural selection using your skin. When teachers talk to me about, how can I teach evolution in my classroom? I say, listen, one of the best ways available now is using the story of your own body, your own skin color. This is the teaching tool that you carry with you. Cheap, available, perfect. Use it. It's an excellent example of natural selection acting on the human body. We are mammals, primates, just like the rest of them, subjected to the forces of evolution and conspiring with culture during much of our evolution, our recent evolution, to come up with all of these wild and wacky compromises that allow us to live in the extremities of the environment on the Earth's surface. Skin color has tremendous numbers of implications, tremendous for our health and social well-being. We pay attention to color. Color is important for us. We can't help but see color. That's one of the beauties of being an old world higher primate, is that we have trichromatic color vision. But the fact that we see it doesn't mean that we judge it. The bald assessment.
I'm saying it is what it is. This is what humans do. It's what humans are. Yeah. Ape that can come in a variety of colors. That's the animal that the human being is.
Of color is completely neutral and free of any judgment. We only affix a value to color through behavior, through acculturation, through exposure to people who have views about color. And this is one of the illustrations from my kids' book, I like to talk about the conditions that existed for much
She's showing Egypt.
Of the time in ancient Egypt, as people lived along the extent of the Nile, from areas right on the Mediterranean here with moderate levels of UV to areas here in the tip of the Red Sea, close to the tip of the Red Sea in northern.
This smash right here, because this is way before the Byzantine period. You had lighter skinned people in those regions. This map say 1500 BCE. Come on, man.
Very, very high levels of.
You had lighter skinned people in North Africa since the Haliocene period, early Neolithic.
Ultraviolet radiation. So along the upper and the lower Nile, we see this tremendous gradient of UV radiation and this tremendous gradient of skin color among the various peoples and pharaohs of dynastic and pre-dynastic Egypt. People living along the Nile traded with one another regularly. They saw the difference. In 540 BC, really, really interesting time in human history, when humans lived in cities, when they were extremely sophisticated, literate, well-read, and people were of all different colors, language groups, and backgrounds. They distinguished one from another, but not on the basis of skin color. So that you would have people with very dark or very light skin that were equally considered barbarians, for instance, by the Greeks. This is, I think, a fascinating and again, very beneficial thing to reflect on, that we're very good at pejorative terms, pejorative references of behavior. Over time, to skin tremendous for our to skin Black Africans. So 1748 out of in fact, most of human history, when we affixed no value to skin color, there were no connotations of skin color. But in fact, that is the case. Humans are very, very good at discriminating according to language and dress and, perceived barbarity. But for most of human history, those boundaries were not drawn on the basis of skin color. So here, I like to quote, to look at the Persian Empire and all of these different empires here that were described in 540 BC. Really, really interesting time in human history when humans lived in cities, when they were extremely sophisticated, literate, well-read, and people were of all different colors, language groups, and backgrounds. They distinguished one from another, but not on the basis of skin color. So that you would have people with very dark or very light skin that were equally considered barbarians, for instance, by the Greeks. This is, I think, a fascinating and again, very beneficial thing to reflect on, that we're very good at making groups out of humans, us and them groups, but the kinds of groups that we created in the mid-1700s, the so-called races of humans, were created by a few guys on the basis of their own opinions. They were not created on the basis of ancient patterns of color-based discrimination. Carol Linnaeus, the founder of modern systematics, first described humans in 4 different varieties that he didn't call races, he called them varieties, and he didn't rank them. But he said, basically, you've got white Europeans, you have red Americans, you have brown Asians, and black Africans. So 1748, very, very simple. That's how he describes them. And he's got humans and lots of other primates and lots of plants and other mammals. And it's a, you know, he's doing a lot of basic systematics. 10 years later, after he reads a lot more travelers' accounts of human variation, including variation in behavior brought back by explorers, we have Linnaeus talking about people who have different color. Okay, so here Americans red, but they have a choleric disposition. Europeans, white, sanguine, Asians, brown, melancholy, blacks, Africans, black and phlegmatic. Where did he get this? This is stuff that he is taking from the old climatic theories of ancient Greek times, and unusual for him, making a scientific explanation of diversity that includes pejorative terms, pejorative references of behavior. Over time, things just get a bit more exaggerated. Immanuel Kant, one of the foremost philosophers of Western civilization, was fascinated with problems of human diversity. And in 1775, began a series of essays on the different human races. And he continued this through the early part of his career because he was trying to understand how the physical appearance of humans was associated with their potential for moral behavior and the development of civilization. And he was convinced that color was the key to understanding this. It's beneficial to reflect on the fact that Kant hardly ever left his sitting room. A very, very erudite man, brilliant, absolutely superb philosopher in many of his writings, but when it came to understanding human diversity, he only heard secondhand, third-hand, and hearsay reports, and he had very strong opinions about who was better than whom. He created, and Kant was the first one to create 4 distinct races that he referred to as races that had no mixing in between them, no sort of gray zone, as it were, between these races, that they were completely separate entities, unmixable, and that they had different capacities for civilization. And of course, his race was on top. Kant and his Scottish counterpart, David Hume, had very similar thoughts, and they had very similar data to go on. They received information from travelers, tales, explorers that was very poor quality compared to the information we have today on human diversity. And they made very clear judgments about people who were not Europeans. David Hume said there was never a civilized nation of any complexion other than white. These two were the Hume-Kant view was tremendously influential. One another, and that the white race was supreme. Now, this paradigm, as we could say, had tremendous effects. Remember, where are we in history? We're in the middle of the 1700s. What else is going on here? unfortunately, a lot. Both of these guys were very highly regarded. Their books were widely distributed. There were printing presses. Books were precious, but they were widely distributed. They were widely distributed throughout Europe and into the American colonies. Their writings were favored by scholars and statesmen, including the so-called founding fathers of the United States. And all of this happened at a time when the transatlantic slave trade was going great guns and was under fire. In England, the abolitionist movement was beginning to grow, and there were calls for the abolition of the slave trade, which had already been going on for 250 years. But if you have what I would now call pseudoscientific accounts of races and racial hierarchies, such as those propounded by Kant and Hume, what is this going to do to the transatlantic slave trade? It's going to support it. How convenient. Have pseudoscience supporting a completely bankrupt and inhumane trade in human lives. And we have the same kind of pseudoscience that bolsters some pseudo-religious accounts, the biblical defense of slavery, among many others, written in the early and mid-1800s, that takes these so-called races of humans that have been described, puts them in a clear hierarchy, and indicates that some humans, especially Africans, are destined, following the curse of Ham, to serve other humans. Very convenient if you want to promote the slave trade and maintain slavery after the slave trade is officially abolished in England. The slave trade was a pernicious trade in human beings that resulted in 14 million, mostly West Coastal Africans, moving to Europe, the New World, in large numbers to South America and the Caribbean, much smaller numbers to North America. But this was an absolutely horrible trade that was created on the back of racial hierarchies and maintained. So we have race definitions that begin to be formulated by men with incomplete data, but lots of attitude in the mid-1700s, leading to quickly the formation of racial stereotypes in this country and elsewhere, and the formation of what I call color memes, that we associate particular skin colors with particular patterns of behavior, creating the psychosocial template for racism. Excuse me. We can see this in our history. We can see this in world history. We can see it just as clear as we can see the evolutionary biology. Now, what can we do about it? What we can do is we can work to teach kids about these different facts of evolutionary biology and the origin of human diversity in skin color, and the origin of the fallacy of physical races. I don't want to be so bold as to say we can tell kids that race doesn't exist. Race is a social construct. A 9-year-old doesn't know what a social construct is. But what we can tell them is that the idea of race was created.
You say, yeah, Reggie need to see this video. I don't think he's seen this video. I don't even think he really even studied or researched on Nina Jablonski like that. Just that one paper he keep bringing up.
Created by some guys who had very, very inadequate data and lots of attitude and lots of bigotry, old-fashioned bigotry. And should we listen to them now? Should our modern history be forged by the fallacies perpetuated 250 years ago? No. When we teach this book to kids and in our summer camps, what we have are kids who learn about the evolution of skin color and the history of racial types created on skin color. And they say, what's the fuss about? This is a product of evolution. And these guys were wrong. Why are we here? That's my question for you. Why can't we get this information in our schools? And this is what I spend my days doing now. The book.
This type of information we need in school. This cut out the race, like one by one, cut out the racism so people understand what humans really is and what we are.
That you just saw there is the book that we wrote. This is my South African co-author, Sindiwe Magona, my friend and illustrator, Lynn Fellman. This book was published in South Africa. We're trying desperately to find a publisher to bring it out in the United States. I'm all ears. And in our summer camps, we have kids who work on their own genes, who look at their own skin and try to figure out what's going on. This Finding Your Roots curriculum, I've been working on it for nearly 10 years now with Henry Louis Gates Jr. from Harvard, many other wonderful collaborators, geneticists, sociologists, historians, bioethicists, evolutionary biologists. It's a great group. Now over 40 strong have contributed to this marvelous.
They kill all that noise right there when they be like white people science. You see how diverse science is? So science is diverse.
It's curriculum.
Different people with different backgrounds.
We've had grant support from the Rockefeller and Robert Wood Johnson Foundations, and we've had an excellent run of summer camps during which kids study their own DNA, their own pigmentation genes, their own relatedness. They explore their own genealogy. They look at their deep history. They look at life under the microscope in various ways. They learn about their own physiology. It's absolutely fantastic. If you go to this website, www.findingyourrootsclassroom.org, you can watch a series of 8, soon to be 9 videos that show our kids in action. You can do this in your home and in your classroom. You can do this in your after-school program or your summer camp. We have the curriculum ready for you to download free. Everything's there for you to do this anywhere you want. Skin color is a beautiful.
Go to that map. Go to that map. Rachel tomorrow, so she don't use that map no more. This video only 2 years old.
Evolutionary adaptation, and needs to be celebrated by all humans as just that. It doesn't divide us, it unites us. It is the most beautiful and effective product of human evolution, of natural selection on the human body, a wonderful teaching tool, something to be absolutely celebrated.
You hear that? A wonderful teaching tool. This is a teaching tool, Reggie. This ain't no tool that's gonna confuse people. Unless you're just an idiot. Like, you have to read, you know what I'm saying, the data with the map.
I want all of you to do it. I want all of you to go out, tell your families and friends about this, and just spread the word, because the world will be a little bit better place with this knowledge about our evolution and our history. Thank you very much.
We want to show one more thing. So, let's see.
Let's welcome our debaters, Mr. Bill Nye and Mr. Ken Ham.
I'm gonna show people what DIMs are. And that's kind of like, based on like what we think is races, what I'm saying, based on the different differences in human humans being different in different regions, why we look different. A better way in science to describe it would be DIMS or Klein. You know what I'm saying? Or even it'd be like the equivalent of even dogs when you're dealing with different breeds. Like humans have different gene pools, and we look different because it's different. We live in different environments that make us look different. But a lot of people call it a race. You know what I'm saying? And he said, "Yeah, Bill Nye whooped him." He did. And what people would think of as a race is actually DIMs. I heard it say in biology, a DIM is a strict sense as a group of individuals that belong to the same taxonomic group. That's what we would probably perceive as a so-called race or something like that. But that's just based on, the evolution of people in that, adapting in particular environments or whatever to have these differences. And you see it all throughout, and even in the animal kingdom too. I mean, we are all part of the animal kingdom, but in other animals. And they say, however, when biologists and especially ecologists use the term DIM, they usually refer to it as a definition of gamodemy, a local group of individuals from the same taxon, like like humans, that interbred with each other and share a gene pool. The later definition of demi is only applicable to sexual reproducing species, while the former is more neutral and also takes a sexual reproducing species into account, such as certain plant species. In the following sections, the latter to the most frequently used definition to the demi will be used. Let me say in evolutionary computation, the demi often refers to any isolation subpopulations subjected to selection as a unit rather than as individuals. Like as grouping and cluster, like different gene pool cluster. Even right here, see, watch this, like another example. Like things could be different with even in the same species, like humans are. Just like here, specification and demis. Specification could occur in the levels of demis when demi gets geographically isolated from other demis of the same species, like humans. Like that's why we look different. Like what we perceive as race. Gene flow between, even though race doesn't really exist, it would be considered demis or Klein, what we see, in differences in populations. And right here say gene flow between these demis will stop, which could lead to specification after a long time. This is called allopatric specification, and is generally a slow process. On the contrary, sympatric specification can be certain random when species has multiple small demis. This random specification is both observed in plants and vertebrates. Rapid specification is explained by ecology and social structure of demis. Species that behave more territorial live in a patchy patchy environments and or have a polygynous breeding system with only one reproductive male tend to have smaller demi sizes. Interbreeding between small demis is rare due to these factors. Furthermore, alleles fixate more rapidly in the smaller demis. Small demis could therefore become genetically distinct from each other. Right here, primates, for example, have the second highest specification rate among animals, with no, and that including us. We are primates. That's why I say, like, you know, so that's what I'm saying. What you think is perceived as racist or whatever. You can have one species and it look, in this one species can have so much variation in this one species. Just like even in chimps, like even what they call subspecies of chimp, them just really different demis for real. They just the same species, especially with the common chimp or the robust chimp. It's okay, sort of primates, for example, have the second highest specification rate among mammals, with one specification event per lineage every 3 million years. However, not all primate species have a high specification rate. This is reflected in their demi size and social structure. Gnomes, Cereopithecus, which is that's a scientific word for old world monkey. They also mean tailed ape. But in this particular old world monkey gnomes, for example, live together in small polygynous troops and or a quite diverse genus. On the other hand, baboons, papia is the scientific term, have much lower specification rate. Baboons have large demi rates because they live in polygynous multi-male troops. These baboon dems are usually allelopathic, but gene flow still exists between demis with hybridization being common. You might hear examples. Various populations. Yes, specifications. That's what it is, specifications. Specifications. Various populations of gorillas can be understood by their geographically separations and have been assessed and determined distinct and disjointed gene pools. The polar bear Eulerus mortemius is understood to have 19 identifiable demis, even though their circumpolar distribution allows them to interchange among demis. So you got like 18. If polar bear had races, it'd be about 18 different ones. If you know what I'm saying, if you could describe the different, well, basically just different you know what I'm saying, sub factors or traits that they adapt in different regions, just like humans do. Let me see. Trying to see if they got any good examples of sympatric specification. You heard say heteropatric specification is a special case of sympatric specification that occurs when different ecotypes or races of the same species geographically coexist but exploit different niches in the same patchy or heterogeneous environment. It is thus a refinement of sympatric specification with a behavior rather than geographical barrier to flow of genes among divergent groups within a population. This is like even dealing with gorillas. You got mountain gorillas, and you got lowland gorillas. And they look different, you know what I'm saying? They have certain differences in adaptations. Let me show you. It can be tricky because sometimes they're called demi. They be like, even though they're the same species, they are called subspecies. But it'd be the same species with different variations within the same species. See, the mountain gorilla inhibits the Arabine Rift montane cloud forests. They more bulkier, they have more hair, they're bigger. And then the lowland gorilla, they're more gracile. You gotta look at them. More gracile than the mountain gorilla. He has less, and he's less hairy. The mountain gorilla is bigger and more hairy. You know what I'm saying? To keep cool, in the areas where it rains all the time. Even in common chimps, you got different variations of the same species. See, even in the chimps, see, they got the different so-called subspecies of them on this page. Look real quick, I think it's up here. This is a different page. Hold on. Yeah, subspecies and populations. You got the central chimpanzee, live in particular areas of Africa. You got the western chimpanzees, the Nigerian, Cameroon chimpanzees, eastern chimpanzees, and the southeastern chimpanzees. But they all have distinct characteristics among themselves. Some are smaller, more commonly. You have some, some that are bigger, that some of them that do different things, have different traits. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, commonly in certain populations. Yeah, but I'm gonna wrap this up tonight, y'all. It was a good build with you. Right on for rocking with me. I'm gonna keep doing this some more. I did this on a late night tip. Next week I'm gonna start early and do a full out show, have a discussion. have a discussion with a few, you know what I'm saying, a few people on there. Peace, y'all. Appreciate it.